Mr. President, Ray McGovern is here to brief you.
Oh boy, more bad news. What's up here, Ray?
Good morning, Mr. President. Glad to be here. I thought I'd start with the situation in Gaza since we have a fresh report from the UN representative for Gaza. She just gave an interview from Jordan. She's been in Gaza for the last couple of weeks, and I don't want to paraphrase what she said. She said that the situation there remains absolutely catastrophic. Her words. She said that the Palestinian civilians there were enduring, quote, she said, a horrendous maelstrom of human misery. Now, she is the senior representative for Gaza, and she was speaking to journalists from in the UN in New York. She was, as I say, speaking from Jordan. Now, just to give you an idea of what people are beginning to understand, I wanted to tell you that what I mentioned last week about polio, that's a real concern now because of the contaminated water and the exposed sewage and all that. But not only that, we have 100,000 cases of diarrhea. We've got all kinds of jaundice and it's looking pretty bleak. I want to read from something here, so again, I don't misquote anybody. Polio was not endemic to Gaza, and it was banished from Gaza 2 decades ago. Um, there are other infectious diseases, as I mentioned. Now, with few and limited exceptions, Israel is preventing the entry of fuel, vaccines, medical supplies, and potable water to the Gaza Strip. Now, the point is, Mr. President, the world knows that this is intentional, okay? It's not accidental, it's intentional because we have people like the former head of the National Security Council in Israel, a fellow named General Elan. And he said, and I quote, severe epidemics in the southern Gaza Strip will bring victory closer and will reduce the number of IDF casualties. Well, how do you do that? Well, you do that by limiting the entree of medical supplies and more particularly of food. Now, the UN has given some information. They made a graphic out of it, and I've asked my assistant there, or your assistant, to put it up, having to do with the deliveries that have been let in by Israel, let into Gaza. Could you put that up, Max? This again is from the UN. Now it's a busy graph. I'm not going to explain it all, but you see the title there. This is what genocide by starvation looks like. And we have in that rectangular box at the bottom circled in
Hey,
red.
wait. What do you mean genocide? What's going on here, Ray? The CIA thinks there's genocide there or something. There's
Well,
polio.
actually, that's what
Polio. That's what
that's,
FDR had. Polio. He had polio. He
yeah.
still became president. It's a great country that we got
You,
here. Yeah. But go
of
ahead.
course it is, yeah.
Polio.
Oh,
I
this
thought
is
polio was eradicated. What's this
Well,
polio
polio is
thing?
coming back because of the sanitary conditions and the exposed sewage and that kind of thing. But this
In
heading, this,
Gaza? In
yes,
Gaza?
in Gaza,
Oh,
right?
oh.
Now, it was eliminated 2 decades ago with the help of two doctors from Stanford. And they realized that given the conditions in Gaza, even then, you needed double. It's very simple. You needed double the amount of vaccination to prevent it. And that was done. Later, curiously enough, when there was an epidemic in Israel where polio was coming back, they used what they call the Gaza formula, double dose, and it eliminated it. So it was eliminated. Now it's coming back. Now, what we're saying here is this is a UN graph, okay? And it shows these bar graphs here. It shows the number of trucks that are landing every day, and up at the top, you could see that it used to be 500 trucks a day. In February of this year, it was 91. In May, it was 94. in what a July, first part of July 86. Now it's 42. Almost no trucks getting in. And that label there, when it talks about genocide, well, starvation is part of genocide. And this is not only food, but medical supplies that are being let in there. So when we talk about this, we need to understand that that's why the International Criminal Court is about to indict Netanyahu and Galan, Gallant being the defense minister. And here's a quote from him the very first week of the Israeli response to the October 7 attack. He says, "We are imposing a complete siege on Gaza. Yeah, we are imposing, yeah, there will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything will be closed." End quote. Well, that's the definition of genocide. Now, the big thing here, I think I may have mentioned this last week, but the British used to have a kind of a challenge here. The British used to say, well, wait a second now, let's take a look at this charge of genocide. No longer are they challenging it, they're saying, let it go through. Now, that's Gallant there in that picture, saying that we want a complete siege, including water, electricity, medical supplies, food, okay? That's the definition of using hunger and a lack of medical care as genocide. Now, as you know, as I hope you know, Mr. President, the
So Ray, stop it! This is like some nightmare here. Did you listen to this Netanyahu when he was in Congress? You know what's going on. You see the Republicans giving him what is 75 standing ovations, and you're talking to me about polio. And Netanyahu told them there's all this food, everything goes in there. It is not a problem, and they were all cheering every single thing he's saying. And you're telling me that that's not the case, and what they were all polio and the UN. What's going on here? It's like I'm living in different universes.
Well, there are two different universes, Mr. President. I'm sorry to tell you. I know that you've been told various things by Netanyahu. I'm not quite sure he mentioned how the Israelis are blocking the delivery of food and medical supplies. I'm wondering if you raised it with him because you have asked him several times in the past to stop that. In other words, to open up the gates. And there are about four or five that could be opened up and alleviate this misery, but they're not being opened up. And so of course, Netanyahu didn't mention any of this during his speech, nor with his conversations with congresspeople and senators. So I thought that you should know it because, as you know, our job is to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and that's the truth. That's why the British, even, and I have to say that I'm quite amazed that the British are going a little wobbly on this thing now. They withdrew their petition to the International Criminal Court to delay the indictments of Netanyahu and Defense Minister Galan. And they're looking at how this thing started and whether or not they should continue to give military aid to Israel. So this is big. This is the change in government. And we're all surprised that they might change their policy. But when Britain goes this way, what's going to happen to the rest of the NATO allies?
Well, let me ask you, Ray, because right now it is a lot of pressure. Israel wants to go full out with Lebanon and Hezbollah and all that stuff and everything. And I think I don't know what we're doing now, but I thought he doesn't listen to us. He doesn't listen to us. And I told him, I mean, I've been a supporter forever. I'm a Zionist. I'm right. I told him that, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's got Congress wrapped around his finger, the House and everything. And so we're really, polio, okay, but what about full blown war with Lebanon? And where is he going after Iran? He wants me
Yep.
to bomb Iran, right? He wants me to take them out once and for all. He says we didn't do it, and that's going to be a big issue because what's Trump saying? He says he wants it to. It's got to end fast. Well, there's no way fast except you blow everybody up and blow things up, and and then you get deeper into war, right?
That's exactly
What's going
right.
on? I don't know
That's
this is not what I thought was going to happen. I thought Hamas would be finished in a couple of weeks, and okay, Israel would be secure. And what's happening here? It's just the worst nightmare. This is worse than Vietnam or anything. It's just like, fortunately, we don't have troops there yet. But this is, well, I keep saying people's kind about my legacy, but this thing, genocide and horror and everything, it's what happened to LBJ. LBJ had some domestic success there, a lot, right? And then
Right.
he got hung with Vietnam, and then he's remembered as a disgraced president,
It's a
So
yeah.
is that what they're locking me into here? And then what's Kamala going to do? Kamala, what's she going to do about it? Well, is she going to be
It's
able
a
to? She needs got to win in Michigan. They got a lot of Arabs there. What's she going to do? Then Trump's going to beat her up, and what's he going to make mincemeat out of her?
Mr.
Yeah,
President.
I know. CIA is not your problem. You live in this fairy tale world where you're spooks. The half of you on the other side of that turnstile, they go make all this mischief and blow things up all around the world. And you, so-called analysts, you got to make sense of it, right? And then what do you give
Well,
me? You give me the reasonable part. But for all I know, you guys are behind Hezbollah shooting all this stuff up, right? Maybe you're even locked into what Netanyahu's doing. I don't know.
well, I give you the
Yeah.
point, Mr. President, that sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. But our job is to tell you what's going to happen. To draw a direct analogy, for example, to the Vietnam experience that LBJ faced. Now, as we've said before, hats off to what he was able to achieve domestically. He was ruined by being lied to by the same people who've been lying to you now. Just a little personal aside. The way you get out of this, Mr. President, would be to fire all the generals that you have. So there are over 500 of them. Let the colonels take over. They have a little battle experience. They won't tell you that Putin has already lost in Ukraine, as they told you in July of last year. They won't tell you that the Russians are running out of ammunition and have no indigenous capability to produce it, as they told you a year and a half, okay, a year and a half ago.
Well, I know
So
Israel's not out of ammunition because we're giving it to him. Right? I mean,
that's
really, how
exactly
much
right.
more I got to do? And everybody now saying, well, you shouldn't have given them the 2,000 pound things. What that kills civilians. But, that's what it's all about, right? And then, I mean, yeah, the LBJ thing, that's on my mind because, when before I got betrayed into having to resign, there's nothing wrong. You could tell there's nothing wrong with my grasp of these things and running the world and everything. But they chicken out now. Okay, and he's going to eat her for mincemeat because I mean, what does she know about foreign policy? And she wants to have it both ways. Her husband's telling everybody, "Oh no, she's a Zionist and loves Israel." Well, not more than I do, for God's sake. But then they get involved with Lebanon, and then you go after Iran. That's what Netanyahu wanted last time. Remember, he attacked Obama. He attacked him, yeah, trying to make peace with Iran. He went after him there in 2015
It's,
there or something. See, I can remember all this stuff. I don't know why they say I can't remember. Why do they
yeah,
say I can't remember? I mean, they don't want to remember. You don't want to remember, right? Everybody said, yeah, there's weapons in Iran, there's weapons in Iraq. We got to do it. They lie to everybody. They lie to Bush. They're lying to me now. And then what do I go? And it's not true. I won't be
yeah.
remembered for the great domestic programs because the war. Look how much debt we're going to roll up with all this stuff. How much the foreign policy, everything's going nuts there with China and everything. And what's happening here? And
Well,
everybody
Mr.
forgets, China bailed out Trump because in that pandemic, they were supplying all the stuff, all the toilet paper and everything, everything everybody needed from Amazon was coming from Red China. No, that's what saved him, saved us in the pandemic. Now, well, that people want me to go to war with China, Russia, or I guess we're already with war and everything. The wartime presidents are not well regarded. They don't have a legacy. The legacy sucks.
Let me suggest that, Mr. President, as I think I said last
Yeah.
time, you have the ability to affect what happens in the Middle East. Let's do that one first. If you make clear that you don't want a regional war in the Middle East, And because of that, you will not support Israel taking on Hezbollah in Lebanon. If you make that clear in a public announcement, you have a natural ally. And that ally is called the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, the army. They don't want to go against Hezbollah. They already took a bloody nose from Hamas, for God's sake. So they don't want to do that. If they're able to say to Netanyahu, look, what happens when we get in more trouble against Hezbollah? What are you going to do? Oh, the Americans will come in. Wait a second now. The president has already said the Americans are not coming in. We're not going against Hezbollah. You have the opportunity to do that. Apparently, you didn't do that when Netanyahu was here. It's not too late. It may be too late next week, but it's not too late. As for Ukraine, your legacy will really be protected if you finally give the Ukrainians the go ahead to negotiate the best deal they can right now before they have to give up the whole schmear. That's possible too. With respect to the Far East, now that is a real problem, Mr. President. Your inept advisors, Blinken and Sullivan, told you 3 years ago that the Russians and the Chinese were at each other's throats. The word you used was squeezed. Remember, you told Putin that Russia was being squeezed by China. Now we could have told you that it wasn't a squeeze; it was a friendly embrace. And they're together to the point where they ran joint exercises with very heavy bombers right up against Alaska, not into their territorial, not so close that they caused an international problem. That's the first time they've done that ever. Okay. Now they're also doing things in the Baltic. They had a big Navy Day celebration just yesterday on Sunday. Guess who participated? Two Chinese warships, one Indian warship, another warship from Algeria, and there were 30 representatives of other countries invited and came. It was a big celebration. And let me mention one thing about what Putin said during that celebration. He said, look, we know that the Americans and the Germans plan to put long range, get that now, long range missiles in Germany starting in 2026. Okay. We will have to mirror image that, his word. We'll have to put in our own missiles, but they will not be long range missiles. They will be medium and short range missiles. Now, what's my point here? What Putin is trying to say to the Germans is, "My God, you got had again." Look, the Americans don't need long range missiles in Germany, and you're going to be a target for whatever they put in there, a target that the Russians will hit first. The Americans don't want any part. They have strategic balance here. They have defenses that Russia won't test. But if you put those missiles in there, says Putin, we'll put medium and intermediate and lesser range missiles, and they're going to hit the Americans. They're going to hit you. So what he's trying to say is, look, don't be taken in by this American initiative to put these very dangerous missiles in your country. And when Scholz, this chancellor, was asked why he did this, he forgot the script, and what he said was, well, the Americans said they wanted to do it, and we agreed. Well, that's the way that's gone since the war. In a way, Hungary, Slovakia, France to a little bit, other people, even the UK, are now showing a little bit of more discrimination here as how closely they follow the US. You should take advantage of the leeway you have in these next 6 months to make some initiatives to end wars in Europe and prevent wider wars in Middle East and against China.
Yeah, what don't you understand about being a lame duck? What don't you understand? You tell me I should do this or that. Look at the situation I'm in now. I've been abandoned by my own party. They say I'm not there. I'm not clear. I'm clear. I'm clear that we don't want this. I'm clear that's not going well. not stupid. You know, they sometimes talk to me like I'm stupid, or, you know, you're not a young guy yourself, you know. But I mean, I've been there before. I saw what happened to LBJ. They always say you're going to win these wars, and then it always gets into this exit strategy. There's no exit strategy. Exit strategies. I have to exit now. I had a good thing going. I was running a good administration, taking care of people, and then I get involved in this, all this stuff. I mean, who the hell ever thought Israel would explode on my watch? I thought that Russia thing, Putin backed down, and that would be over in no time, and your Europeans, then they kept pushing more. You got to expand NATO, and you got to do this, you got to do that, and I don't know, but this lame duck. What am I supposed to do? I do something. What am I doing? Undermining Kamala? What am I doing? I'm making it impossible. I'll be a sore loser. Are you kidding me? I just go now and try to tell Netanyahu you can't protect your people against Hezbollah and Iran and everything. And I don't see Obama speaking up about it. It was his whole thing to negotiate with Obama. Now Netanyahu is the guy who came in and undermined him when he was the sitting president. Came there and told the Congress, you can't do business with Iran. And you think he's not going to find ways to make sure Trump's president, because he could do business with Trump.
Well,
Netanyahu,
Mr.
yeah,
President, Mr.
all
President,
right,
you're still president, and
yeah. Tell
you
it to
you
the
could
other
do
folks. Tell it to the
well.
media. Tell it I'm still
You
president. They're lucky if I can. They say if he doesn't stumble, I can read a speech from a teleprompter. Oh yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, come on, the lowered expectations. I try to give a speech on foreign policy now, explain that we're abandoning Netanyahu and we don't want him to go get in a fight with Hezbollah. Then he's going to say, "Wait a minute, who's that? Is that Kamala talking or is that Biden talking? Does he know what he's talking about?" You know him. He's a brutal guy, that Netanyahu. And Putin's no picnic. I mean, they just pick you apart. And Zelensky, he'll start attacking me. They'll all attack me, I saw what happened to LBJ. That guy was riding high, the best. Maybe, I don't know how they could compare me to LBJ. I mean, he got a hell of a lot more done than I ever could. I mean, that's just between us. I mean, Jesus, that LBJ, but Vietnam, man, he was finished. You hardly
he
ever
was
hear him mention
he
anything,
was lied
good.
you know, he was lied to by the generals, Mr. President, just the way you have been. Let me
Yeah,
suggest something now.
yeah.
This is
All
not
right, wrap
something.
it up, Ray. Wrap it up. I know I'm in a situation I'm in, but you're telling me that here's Hezbollah and Iran and everything, and Netanyahu's that speech he gave. He kicked me in the privates there. I mean, what kind of speech was that? He says he had a nice thing about me, but he basically said that you got to follow them. You got what is this now? I mean, we used to talk about being for the whole world, and now what? Where it's us and Israel, and now we're trying to get what Japan and Vietnam. I don't know. You figure it
Well,
all out. But if your advice to me is that I gotta, you know, pronounce defeat now or something, or I can't do that.
it's not defeat, Mr. President. It's statesmanship. All you need to do is make clear that U.S. forces will not support Israel if it widens the war against Hezbollah. And it would be helpful if you withdrew some U.S. forces from the area. That would give the Israelis pause, and it might convince Netanyahu that over the next 6 months at least, you mean it. And the army, as I said, would be in your camp. The Israeli army would breathe a sigh of relief and say, oh my God, now let's finish the job against Hamas. We don't have to have a two-front war. One other thing, Mr. President, in a personal kind of thing, it's not just your image, but there is personal liability here. As you probably know, if these the International Criminal Court indictments go through, as I expect they will in the next few weeks, against Netanyahu himself and Golan, his defense minister, well, there's the question of accomplices and people who made it possible and people who didn't shut off the military aid that made it possible and enabled the genocide. So you don't want to be in that position. What you need to do, it seems to me, is during the time you have left, speak out saying, look, we're going to stop enabling this genocide. We don't like starvation. We don't like people dying of infectious diseases. We're going to stop giving arms aid to Israel. That would do it in a moment, and it would say to the Israeli army, oh, God, finally, Netanyahu is being reined in by a president. Yeah, only 6 more months. 6 more months is a long time. And if you're worried about your
Uh,
legacy, I think that would protect your legacy.
Yeah, and then what? You know what? I mean, this is look. Okay, I've been around a long time. I remember poor Jack Kennedy. And everything. He got involved with Diem, and Diem was supposed to save freedom and there in Vietnam and everything. And the next thing you know, you guys at the CIA killed him, running around the sewers in Saigon. He was trying to protect himself, and the guy got killed. And then so Kennedy was no longer, and God knows, probably had a lot to do with his getting assassinated. And then you had that Bay of Pigs thing that he got involved with. So Kennedy's whole reputation got screwed up there. And oh yeah, the CIA will just go in there and knock out Castro. What the communists they still got there. It's communists in Vietnam, communists in China, communists in Cuba, and you guys all said no, they're just paper tigers. We'll get rid of them. And then it's always the same thing with the Iraq War and everything. What's looking Hamas, for God's sake. I remember the Netanyahu and these guys, they were giving them money. They were letting the money come in there, right? From, in the Qatar and everywhere. And, they said, oh, no, he's better than the PLO. We
That's
can't have
right. Yeah.
yeah, and Hamas was they never supposed to, do this stuff. They're supposed to be tamed. They got their little fiefdom there in Gaza. They were supposed to, then we used them to undermine the PLO, and right, that all made sense. Now everybody says, hey, you allowed these terrorists to get in. And meanwhile, Trump, he's sitting there, that fat ass son of a bitch. He's sitting there and it's all working out for him. And his ally is Netanyahu. He comes in there. And what's poor Kamala going to do? She's got to worry. You got a lot of Arabs and people like that voting up there in Michigan and everything. So she's got to say something about there are a lot of people in Gaza getting killed. It's tragic and everything, but she's got to come on tough too. And get got to remind you, Ray. I'm a lame duck now. I'm a lame. I'm a lame duck, and I should never listen to those people. I should be out there defending myself. I should be taking on Trump. I should have never listened to my advisors. Yeah, they always give you crummy advice and everything. I didn't believe in this stuff. I said we shouldn't have gone in Iraq against Saddam Hussein. I had some doubts and everything, but now I'm holding a bag of shit here. Like I can't believe it, and that's what lame duck means. I'm just here. I got a smile and thanks. I sure. And my legacy is kaput. See you next
Well,
time.
yeah, Miss,
That's it, Ray. I had enough. I gotta go get some sleep. They tell me I'm not supposed to do anything. Here I am at night babbling away with you. And so, Ray, the last thing, this thing about holding. If Netanyahu goes after Hezbollah, that's what's got to do because he killed all the Druze. They're terrible, and up there in the Golan Heights, which how the hell did they get the Golan Heights? Was supposed to be Syria, but then they anyway. But what are we talking about here? This could be worse than even the Ukraine, right? I mean, this could be really one of the dumber things. What happens there? I mean, or do they just knock out the Hezbollah? What happens?
Mr. President, it's not altogether clear, but it seems pretty certain that this was not a deliberate Hezbollah attack on kids playing soccer. In other words, it was either a errant missile that was headed toward Mount Hermon or some of the outposts that the Israelis have in that area, which I would remind you is occupied area. In other words, it belongs to Syria. And Trump, in his wisdom, gave it back to Israel, saying Israel annexed it in '67. They can have it. Now it's part of Israel. So these Druze kids were killed. Now, were they killed intentionally by Hezbollah? No, they weren't. Was it an errant missile? Possible. Was it a Israeli missile trying to intercept it? That too is possible. and there are forensics being done now with respect to the cavity in the ground that can reveal what kind of missile it was and so forth. The major thing, the takeaway here, Mr. President, is that Netanyahu said they're going to be prompt and they're going to be severe, this reaction. So they could use it as a pretext to go against Hezbollah. They will not go against Hezbollah unless they think you will support them. And that's the whole point of what I'm saying. Last week and this week, you have the wherewithal here, and you have the freedom. You're not running again, for God's sake. So you have the freedom, unaccustomed freedom, to go against the grain and say, look, Mr. Netanyahu, we don't like the genocide, but you also don't want a wider war. Tell your army not to do that. And the army, I think, will be breathing a sigh of relief, saying, okay, we don't have to go on a two-front war with a debilitated army, which is what has resulted from our fight with Hamas. Just a suggestion, Mr. President, but that's the current, that's the main thing right now that you could do. And as I say, I don't believe that you are powerless in the next 6 months. As a matter of fact, I think you have unaccustomed freedom to do the kinds of things that should be done and that will help your legacy about which you have expressed concern.
Yeah, Ray. So let me ask you a last question. FDR, he was pretty weak at the end of the war. Yeah. And the media, they never even talk about him having polio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had to be carried up to the ship when they had the meetings and so forth by steward and all that stuff. And, I'm not going to show any sympathy for Trump or anything, but, you can see I'm really clear thinking, right? You could see this as a bum rap. Well, how smart were the rest of them? I mean, what did George Bush ever know about anything? You know, even with Daddy's help, he had trouble there at college and everything. What did they know? I mean, who's really smart? You've seen a lot of these people in these positions. They pretend to be smart and everything. They always end up screwing up. Because who the hell can be Caesar, right? I've been thinking about it a lot. We got an empire, but we don't have a Caesar. You know, I mean,
I
they
think
didn't train us for this. We're not good at that, and we weren't supposed to do it, and we got to always hide it. So
that
we conquer the world, and we get scorned, we blow it, we got no
you're
exit
abs-
plan. Now you got this
you're
guy Trump. He claims he's going to be Caesar. Well, he's almost as old as I am, and he's not in great shape. Look at his weight and everything. And what, he's going to run the whole world? And how do you run it? No, these other people aren't buying it. They don't want it. They fight us on everything. Anyway, you ought to think about that. And you guys at the CIA, you can't. You believe that you can control all this stuff, and they all want to be players. They all
well. Let
want
me
their
just
interest. I'm going to just give you one. Saudi Arabia, for God's sake. We did everything for them. And they even forgive them. They killed this guy in the Washington Post. We killed him. They dismembered. It's disgusting. In the embassy or what have you. They asked him to do one thing. They could have stopped Putin in his tracks. Just lower the price of oil. Just cut it way back. He wouldn't do that. Instead, he goes the other way. Take India. They're buying their oil from Russia, right? They're buying
right.
as much as China is. So what do you got going here? Who's going to be Caesar? How you control the world? And you keep saying, "Well, democracy, democracy," but the people aren't buying it. They say, "No, you got the dollar. You control things. You come out on top. We don't." So I understand. If I put on my Scranton hat, I get it. Who's doing the screwing? Who's getting screwed? That I got that. But most of the world looks like yeah, democracy, but well, we have to come out on top in the economics and everything. It's how do I keep these Chinese cars out of here? I have to keep them out because they make them half the price they could sell them. Then I can't even get General Motors to make a decent car. They even stop that bull and everything. So I don't know, Ray. It's like, yeah, if we had a Caesar who could have an empire, but
Can I
maybe that's a mistake.
Can I finish on a somewhat higher note, Mr. President? I'm quoting Caesar. I have not come to praise Caesar. I have come to bury him. Now, the empire has pretty much been buried. Your advisors don't appreciate that. I think that Lincoln and Sullivan are living decades behind where we are now. We used to be an empire after World War II, or even more an empire after the Soviet Union imploded. We're not that anymore. And the behavior of Saudi Arabia and India are earmarks, are symptoms of our loss of power. So, what I would suggest is that we decide to not think that we're exceptional anymore, or that we should rule the world. That we dovetail and we talk to people in BRICS and elsewhere. We get the Ukrainians doing sensible negotiations. We stop a regional war in the Middle East. We can still do that, and we can exercise appropriate caution when it comes to the nexus between Russia and China, and not get involved in a two-front or even a three-front war. We don't have that kind of empire anymore. I hope you realize that.
Yeah, I realize that, but you think Trump realizes that? You do?
No.
You know what he's going to do? He thinks these nuclear weapons, they're firecrackers. You set a couple off, people get scared, and they do what you tell them to do. And he says, I'll fix that and I'll fix that. You come back and they'll fix that. He saw he couldn't fix the pandemic. He couldn't fix called it the China virus. It didn't stop it. And a lot of people died. He got out clean there by, sounding like he knows what he's doing. But it was the Chinese bailed them out. They kept our economy going. They sent all this stuff through Amazon. People could still buy what they want. And then you know what he did? He pulled a Roosevelt. He increased that unemployment thing by what, 3 times or 4 times, and so people were making as much being unemployed as they were making when they were working. So he bankrupted the country, but he threw a lot of money at. But the fact is, this guy's dangerous, isn't he? I mean, he's really dangerous because he's going to say, "Wait a minute, my way or the highway. Well, let's blow up some city. I'll get their attention." And he doesn't understand these weapons. They go off right away when one goes off. Once something comes from Russia that blows up something elsewhere, whether you say Germany or somebody, but it blows up something here, it's all out. It's all over. It's cockroach time, right?
That's true.
I mean, you know.
That's
It's cockroach time. It's not some game that goddamn Oppenheimer, and they make a movie about he seems so smart and he has all the girlfriends and everything. But what the hell makes a weapon? You can't use that goddamn thing for anything but to end everything. Because,
mhm.
and that's what the Russians, they kept those damn weapons. I thought, Gorbachev and Reagan, they were going to get rid of them, but they didn't get rid of them. They got them, and you don't need that many. And then you got everybody else that got them. Israel, don't they got about 200 of these things? How many
That's
has
the
Israel got?
estimate. Well, the
200,
estimate is
right?
between 90 and 300. Mhm.
Yeah, what are they going to do with them, And, I mean, what, they're going to blow up, they can't blow up Gaza with a nuclear weapon. What are they going to do? So, I think about these big questions sometimes. And I think, well, yeah, we got to, I can't do anything to hurt Kamala, I mean, and she's going to have a hard time because that guy Trump, I should have stayed there. I could have beaten them, but nobody believes that. So what the hell? All right, but it's a big question because he's not going. He can't get his way with the negotiation. He's going to blow up somebody. That's why they build these weapons. He's going to say we put a lot of money into them. So let's take out Moscow or something. That'll show them.
That's
You know.
that's the fear. That's the fear that the Russians have. The Russians have made a big deal out of how they prefer predictability on the part of an American president. That's quite understandable, isn't it? Well, they have said in the past that Trump is completely unpredictable. I believe they believe that. Many other people believe that. Okay, so now's the time, it seems to me, to use this immunity that you have, since you're not running again, to encourage a peaceful solution to Ukraine, before before it goes nuclear, because the Russians are winning. They're advancing every week. They're not trying to gain territory, although they are. They're trying to destroy the Iranian army, which they're doing in spades. So it'll come the next 6 weeks to the point where your advisors are going to say, "We've lost in Ukraine. We're going to lose the election, and my God, we're all liable to the wiles of Donald Trump. And maybe we ought to use a little nuke. How'd that do? How to show the Russians?" That's what your advisors are going
Yeah.
to ask you. Mark my words, and please, please be aware that
You
that's
know,
not going to save anything.
I don't know where we are now. This is not no Din Diem or somebody we could just push aside. You got Zelensky, and he's now a world class leader, and admired in Hollywood and everywhere. And then you got Netanyahu. Look what he did with the Congress. He just had a meeting him out of his hand. Yeah, the Democrats, a lot of them were there, but they also have to face their opponents. And what the Republicans did, they're totally out of their minds. They don't know anything. They're stupid people. They actually, believe it's divine intervention is going to save their ass or something. What the end of times or some shit like that. And
Yeah,
that's why and so it'll all come out rosy, and you can go crazy here. And you don't have adults watching the store. I remember I used to hate that Richard Nixon, but God damn it, he understood a lot about foreign policy. He learned from Eisenhower, whatever. He knew it was a real world out there. And then after he was out of office, he should have. I don't know. I don't know if you should jail an ex-president, because you could jailed everybody probably. But he wrote some books, and he speak, and he was kind of a peacenik at the end there, and he did, end that war in Vietnam, and but you can't manage this world in the way they think. And this guy Trump, he scares the hell out of me, right? He just does, and you got a lot of nutty cases over there in the CIA and everybody on the other side, not your analyst commie side, but on the other side. They say, yeah, bring it on, bring it on. So I tell you, I'm not going to be here that much longer, but I worry about it. I worried about it all. And, frankly, I mean, I do think if she's got a better chance, more power to her, Kamala. I think he's going to eat her for lunch. But, if she's got a better chance, so maybe it's okay to kick me out here. I don't know. But they should have done it in a better way. What the hell? Miss a few words or get something wrong in there. All right, it's enough. Let's wrap it up there. And if we're both still alive, we're talking next week or something. Whatever. Have to see you. Okay, take it.
thank you,
Care.
thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
yeah. And I'm clear, right? You know.
Well, I've always had interactions with you that have been thoroughly professional, Mr. President. And
All
if anybody
right,
asked me about, I would tell them that.
asshole. Yeah, okay. Take care.